Welcome to the Academy Maths Tools video about gradient. Okay, so this is a revision video for people who are starting year 11 or struggling in year 11 to talk a bit about what is gradient and why do we care about it. What's the purpose of gradient, right? So, when your teacher says the word gradient to you, or you read the word gradient in your book, I want you to think of one thing, okay? Gradient, I really hope that's spelt right, gradient equals rise divided by run, okay? Like that. Gradient equals rise divided by run. That may not make sense at the moment, but it will. Whenever your teacher says gradient, I want you to think rise over run, all right? Rise over run. So, let's say I had a graph of something, all right? Okay, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And it looks like that. And in your book where your teacher asks you, what is the gradient of this graph, okay? What is the gradient? The gradient is the slope, all right? It's how steep is the graph, okay? Or how shallow is the graph, okay? So, what did I tell you to remember when your teacher said the word gradient? Think rise over run, okay? So, gradient equals rise over run, okay? The run part of this is on the bottom, okay? How far has it run along the graph, okay? The rise part is how much has it risen in the run, okay? Maybe that's a bit confusing. I'll draw a picture for you. What you need to do is you need to pick 2 points on the graph, okay? So I'm going to pick this point here and this point here, okay? This point, we've got x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 2, right? 1 and 2. And here, 2, x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 4, okay? So, those 2 points. Then, I draw a triangle between the 2 points. So, like that. So remember I said the run was the bottom. How far has the graph run along the bottom? So between here and here, the graph has run this far. Okay? From here to here. And how far has that graph risen in that time? So from here to here, the graph has gone that high. It's gone up that much. So it's gone out that far and up that much. All right. So what are these numbers? Right. So on the run, it is run from 1 to 2. Okay? So it's run 1 unit across. So we can say that that's 1. What's the rise? You started at 2 here, and then we ended up at 4. Okay? 2 and 4. So the distance that it's gone up is 1, 2. 1, 2, 1. Rise is 2. Okay? So gradient, remember, rise divided by run, rise over run. Gradient equals rise over run. Alright? Equals, the rise was 2, and the run was 1. Okay? So 2 divided by 1 equals 2. So I can say that the gradient is 2, right? Now, that's just the gradient for this graph, okay? If I were to make this graph steeper, right? Much steeper, okay? It's going up much faster, okay? Then the gradient would change. It wouldn't be 2 anymore. Okay? Get rid of all of that. So we're going to try to work out the gradient of the new graph. So, at 1, we're going to pick another point on the graph. Remember, when you're working out gradient, you need 2 points to work out what it is. Okay? So you've got 1 here, 3. So we've got the point here, x is 1, y is 3. Cool. And we're going to go across 1. And if you look up, that's 6 on the graph. So we've got this second point here, 2 and 6. Okay? So we're going to draw the triangle between the 2 points, here and here. It's a bit hard to see. Here and here. So we're going to look at this distance, and we're going to look at this distance. Okay? Run and rise. Cool. So, first thing we'll work out is, how far has it run along? It's exactly the same as last time. It's gone from 1 to 2. So the run is still 1. Run equal 1. Okay? But this time, right, the graph's moved along 1, but we started at 3 and ended up at 6. So the rise is now 1, 2, 3. Okay? So rise is equal to 3. Now remember, the question is, what is the gradient? Right? And you're thinking, gradient is rise over run. We've got rise divided by run equals, the rise is 3 and the run is 1. Okay? So 3 divided by 1 is 3. So the graph got steeper. Okay? So it goes up much quicker now, and the gradient got bigger. Okay? That's what always happens. So if this graph gets steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper, right, and goes up really, really quickly, then this number gets higher and higher and higher and higher. Okay? If we had that's equal to 1, okay? So we've got this point here is 1, 1, and this point here is 2, 2, okay? So it's run along the graph 1, and it's risen 1. So the gradient rise divided by run is 1 divided by 1. So the gradient is 1 for this graph. If I made that shallower, right? If I put it like this, okay, and made it shallower, then what would be the gradient, okay? It's not going to be negative. Once the gradient only becomes negative if the graph goes down like that. We're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so what is the gradient now? It's less than 1, all right? So it must be a number between 0, which would be flat, and 1, which is here. So it could be any number, like, for example, we're going to say that we've moved here, can do better than that. We can go here, all right? And we're going to say that we're going to start at 0 this time. We're going to go to 4 and 2. So this point here on the graph is x is equal to 4 and y is equal to 2. Okay? And we're going to start at 0. So x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0. Okay? So what's the gradient? You're thinking rise divided by run. The run, okay, is 4, right? From 0 to 4. The rise, okay, is 2, from 0 to 2. So, gradient equals rise divided by run. The rise was 2, and the run was 4. Okay? So, look at that number, 2 divided by 4 is the same as 1 divided by 2. And that's the gradient. The simplest version of the fraction 2 divided by 4 is 1 divided by 2. Okay? And so the gradient of this graph is a half, or 1 over 2. Okay? I think I'll wrap it up there. That's the end of the maths basics for gradient, and the purpose of gradient tells us how steep is the graph. And remember, gradient is rise over run. Okay, see you next time.